The other thing is the maintenance of bad governance. As I told you, the imperialists don't like those who think about their people. Because you have to maintain the people in domination, in this poverty, in this situation of fragility, to assist them permanently. And every time you believe that it is not, it has to be them who help you. Otherwise, you can't get by. This is the discourse that is spread every day. And so we need leaders who make this policy. That arranges them. When we come and make you sign certain conventions, we promise you percentages for several years. Anyway, you as a leader, and then maybe your own, you are good. But what about the people? This is what we refuse. We refuse, and we are not in this logic.
The main trend in the politics of most African states is the desire to maintain friendly relations with all countries. Can you improve relations with France? What should France do to make Burkina Faso its friend again?
Anyway, we are not enemies with the French people. It is the policy of those who rule France that poses problems in Africa. As long as a state is not in a period of slavery, there is no problem. But as long as there is this ideology, there will be problems. We have to accept to look at each other as equals. This is a basic principle. There must be respect. As long as there is not this respect, it will be a problem. We have to accept to look at all our cooperation, because since the independence of the 60s, we have given independence. We may have placed people that we control at the head of some states. We have led people to sign a lot of agreements, a lot of things that prevent us from developing. And when we say develop, the first thing for us is to be able to feed the people and put them in safety. Everything that is in Europe or elsewhere, we can have it here. We don't lack anything. We have all the raw materials, we have everything on site, and we also have the intelligence to transform, to do a lot of things. So people have to understand and look at each other as equals and respect each other. If people are ready to release everything, we are denouncing NA1. Every time we read that it is against the interests of the people, we will not accept. There are basic principles that must be respected so that we have very good relations. It's not just France with any state. The imperialist states, it's not just France. There are others who hide, but they know what they are doing to us, and we know too. So with all these states, people have to change the formula and respect each other. It's important.
You came to power at a very difficult time for your country. From what we know, the main issues are liberation from neocolonial dependence and terrorism. To what extent are these two problems related?
Some people asked me, how did you manage to take such a country? I told them, it is my homeland, it is my country. We are not going anywhere. We are not going to exile ourselves. We are not going to be soldiers in other legions elsewhere. Our ancestors have given us land. It is up to us to give the best land to our children. This is a duty. You said that neocolonialism and terrorism are linked. Terrorism is only a manifestation of neocolonialism. If you study the history of our country, you will understand that it was prepared. It was very well prepared to colonize us in this way. It is barbaric, it is violent, but it is linked. It is only a manifestation. The fight today is not only for Burkina, it is for all of Africa. The youth is awake. It is our mission to continue to awaken the consciousness and to fight against this neocolonialism, and to give a better future to our comrades who are struggling to get out of it. If you look at the history of Burkina, for example, you know that during the revolution of Captain Thomas Sankara, Look at how our army was, for example. We were very well equipped. Do you know how many tanks we had? Do you know how many reaction tanks we had? How many combat tanks were organized by the army? We were very well equipped. After that, I think a program was imposed on our states. We were told to leave the army and concentrate on other things. We dropped the budget of the army, we reduced the regions to 3, then the equipment. There is no more maintenance. Everything is dead. You can find here in Burkina the traces of these abandoned tanks. There are a lot of things. The planes were ordered by the army to open them. So we destructed our armies. We destroyed our armies. At the same time, we encouraged bad governance. And to this day, it continues. If a leader comes and offers you loans, for example, a loan of 50 billion, you can steal more than half of it, deposit it in their account, invest it in their country. And the rest, your partisans, they share that. We don't see any concrete project on the ground. You see, bad governance, we destructed our armies, and then terrorism invites itself to the dance. Terrorism invites itself. We say, you don't have an army, you are weak. We have to come and help you. We come to plant ourselves, but the objective is completely different. So it's a very well-prepared path.
Terrorism is the plague of the Sahel. Defeating it is a question of existence for many states in the region. But why didn't we hear about terrorists during the time of pro-French Blaise Compaoré? And with the change of government, there was an escalation.
There are several factors. I know that there are terrorists who lived here. I know you learned that. Today, the IAEA, the leaders of the UN, they were all here. Many were housed here. That's one thing. You could also see the negative influence that we had in the sub-region, the hostages and all that. You know that it is a means of financing terrorism. Burkina was champion of the liberation of hostages. At what price? I don't know. We watched Mali get involved. We never helped them in this fight because we thought that it was only them. The secession, the separatists who are born and so on, the terrorists. In the end, it is here. So there is this parameter that is there. The other thing is the maintenance of bad governance. As I told you, the imperialists don't like those who think about their people. Because you have to maintain the people in domination, in this poverty, in this situation of fragility, to assist them permanently. And every time you believe that it is not, it has to be them who help you. Otherwise, you can't get by. This is the discourse that is spread every day. And so we need leaders who make this policy. That arranges them. When we come and make you sign certain conventions, we promise you percentages for several years. Anyway, you as a leader, and then maybe your own, you are good. But what about the people? This is what we refuse. We refuse, and we are not in this logic. So there are many parameters that make that maybe he was doing his policy. So there was this stability. But as I said, it was prepared. Whatever we say, the army has been unstructured for these years. Terrorism has arrived. Unfortunately, bad governance has continued until now. It is a system that is there. Foreign armies have settled. You are imposed a lot of things. But if you don't have the courage to leave it, it's a bit complicated in the fight.
We believe in the army of Burkina Faso because it is part of the Burkinabe people. You expelled the French soldiers. Do you think they only interfered in your struggle? Interfere in the affairs of a sovereign state?
First, you might have to do a little investigation. Young officers who were on the ground. And then investigate, see when they maneuvered with this contingent, what was the situation. That's it. When we fight against terrorism, we fight. We don't pretend. But on your territory, when, for example, you have to maneuver and arrive at places that we call the hard part, where we want to go, we tell you, no, you don't have to go. You have to stop there. There is a problem. Investigate on that. You will see. The other thing is that it is when the contingent dismounted that we realized the arsenal they had here, the fighter jets and everything. But it's still a bit weird to see that with all that, the terrorist columns come, they attack, they leave. Today they are not there, but we managed to detect, we managed to hit these columns. So there is no sincerity, in fact. That's why we decided to fight ourselves. We know it's hard, but it's the best solution.
You have proclaimed a new concept of defense of the homeland, based on your own strength, that of your people. Does this mean that the country's politics becomes non-aligned and that there will no longer be foreign military bases or foreign military personnel on the territory?
This policy is not only defense. We decided to do everything in an androgynous way. Even the economy, if you follow the news, you will understand that when we set up LAPEC, for example, it is to finance our own economy. Defense is the same. You go to natural resources, we want to exploit it ourselves. We don't want to continue to let the resources be dilapidated for it to benefit Burkina Faso. So in terms of defense, it's normal. We have been at a fairly critical level in this conflict, this terrorism that haunts our families. It will be that we try to involve everyone. And it's not the first time it happens. I'm disappointed to see some people, in fact, that's also imperialism. We always try to tell you that you have to do what they want, but not to think about yourself to find a solution. And even when things are manifested in a concrete way, they always tend to tell you, no, it's not the same thing. Because maybe they are superior, supreme beings compared to you. In World War II, both wars, our parents were taken here, civilians. They went to help France, no? They fought. Go today in France, you will find places baptized with the name of our martyrs. But they were civilians. Were they even voluntary? No, they were taken by force to defend France. Today, it's disappointing to see that these same French leaders say that we engage civilians. Who are we kidding? We don't have the duty to remember the history. We don't have the duty to remind them that they did it, that they continue to do it. Until today, it happens in Europe. And I think that recently, they adopted a text like that in France. General mobilization, if you can call it that. So we don't have that right. Try to understand. So it's in this context that we decided to fight. In an androgynous way, we rely on our own strength, and also we have new partners who support us in a technical and other way, in terms of equipment and everything. That's the concept. So it's not just defense, economy, and many other parameters. It's androgynous, and we have the capacity.
The broadcasting of several radio stations is prohibited in the country. Opinions appear in the Western press about the lack of freedom of expression in Burkina Faso. But from what we understand here, we are talking first of all about France's interference in the internal affairs of your country. Related counter-terrorism cases.
Freedom of expression? They shut down radios too. You know that even in 2022 to 2023, they shut down radios. So freedom of expression must prevail in our country. It must not be imposed on them. But there is a problem. Either we are not people of the same title, so there is a problem. When they judge that radios are not good for them, they shut down. But here, the radios that make propaganda, that seek to give more aura to the enemy, to amplify the conflict and everything, we are going to shut down. It's not just accidental. Even local radios, which are aligned in the sense of imperialism, we are going to shut down. There will be no sentiment on this issue, because everything they divulge, the propaganda they make, it tends to give another vision of the conflict, then to amplify the conflict, to give another idea of the conflict. That is to say, it will change the mentality of our people. Everything they say is in this sense. Listen very carefully to the events that are happening. When they speak, these journalists, they are partisans. So we are not going to accept that. We are at war. And in war, there is communication to be made. Today, when you look at the conflicts in the world, when they are in power, you know which side they are on. But we also have these rights. So we want people who will communicate, who will encourage our forces, who will encourage the people, who are very resilient to maintain the pressure, to hold on so that we can get there. All those who will come, who will be in the opposite direction, we are not going to accept.
Burkina Faso aspires to a neutral, non-bloc policy. Currently, Azerbaijani President Aliyev leads the non-aligned movement. Do you have any wishes, requests, advice for this movement?
Yes, I can say that I have already read about the movement. I think I was in the Secretariat after the current presidency. I have read. Azerbaijan, I think, since 1991, independence. We follow a little what happens after the relocation. We read a little, especially the Azerbaijani, because you know that Baku is a little like our home. A lot of things happen there. So we are interested in Azerbaijan. We followed the evolution with President Aliyev. We follow up to the PYB, the way everything behaves there. The people's decisions towards the president. We appreciate it. We appreciate it a lot, and it is normal that we are non-aligned. No state will be subjected to domination. We can say that we are a non-aligned state. We have read a lot about the movement, so surely very soon we will be able to exchange. But it is to say that these non-aligned, civilized states are states that aspire to a multipolar world, a world where we do not interfere in their internal affairs. The Azerbaijani prove that they can. Today, the military industry is developing very well. A lot of things are developing very well. The production, the economy, everything is doing very well. This is what we are actually asking for. It has been endogenous and it is part of it. All these states that fight in this direction, we read a lot. We look at the models and we appreciate it. We try to make the best of it. If we can get closer, it is ideal.
You have become an icon for the African people, and this is seen on social networks. What does this inspire you?
I can't follow your social media. But I know that what I said is a fight, not for Burkina, but for all the people who aspire to this real independence. You said Mali. Mali is doing the same fight as us. Niger is starting the same fight. At some point in history, people have to understand that it can't always be the same. Today, the youth, if you look at the Pan-African movement, the youth have understood. They have opened their eyes. We are no longer going to let ourselves be manipulated. If you look at it right now, I was telling you about the latest discovery. There are a lot of messages in it. We have to decrypt them. We have to decrypt them. We are not crazy. There are smart people who can read. So if a lot of young people feel in our fight, all the better. That's all we ask. That people can wake up. We communicate as much as we can so that people wake up. I know that everywhere in Africa, there are voices rising for the real independence of Africa. We are happy to learn it. We hope to give the best of ourselves and be up to the task. We will never betray these people who have been following us from afar.
Homeland or death, we will win. Are we going to focus on winning?
It's not just a sentence. When we say it, it's with conviction. The country or death we will overcome. We are ready for the supreme sacrifice to fight to the death for this country. We have sworn for this.
Homeland or death, we will win. Have I understood correctly that your approach towards liberation from post-colonial dependence is a continuation of the approach of your predecessor, Captain Sankara?
If you go to Niamey, you live a little. You come back to Fa, you live a little. You will always believe in the same city. Our peoples are the same. This is a reality. In East Africa, it is the same people. But people refuse to understand. Secondly, we cannot apply sanctions to the Nigerian people. When you look at it, some have called it inhumane. It is more than inhumane when you think that these are people who speak of human rights and who apply these sanctions to a people to prevent them from eating, to prevent them from taking care of themselves. What human rights are we talking about? It is our duty. They are our brothers. If they are hungry and we have food, we will give it to them. This is the basic principle in Africa. When there is enough for one, there is enough for two. We can cut our rations and give it to them. If they are sick, we can give them medication. We will do it as much as we can. We strongly support the Nigerian people on this issue. On the security issue, we have to say that we are connected. If we let Nigeria disintegrate, everyone will sit down and look at Libya. Yes, we were there. We followed. Everyone let it happen. Libya disintegrated. Where are we now? Everything has fallen apart here. We are in trouble. Are we going to let Nigeria disintegrate again? Remember, I said that we made mistakes. If Burkina Faso had supported Mali in its time and supported Nigeria, terrorism might not have happened here. But we stayed there. At that time, people were instructed to stay there so that it could be done here. We understood the lesson. It won't happen again. The security of Nigeria is our security. This is why we want to save this people, so that it doesn't disintegrate, so that they don't know a certain suffering. This is our position. Of course, we have decided that we will be diminished. It will pass to the Assembly. The Assembly will decide. We try to follow the rules. The Assembly is the representation of the people. It decides and we have the agreement. Anyway, before that, we operated very well with the Nigerian army. At some point, President Bashir decided not to operate anymore. This was a problem because those who attacked us from the east and left Nigeria came and left. We didn't have the authorization to pursue them. We could observe them from our planes. There was a problem. But today, with those who are in place, when they attack, we attack. There are 7 possibilities. This is already very good. Now, if we want to attack the Nigerian people, we will oppose. Those who are there, you know that they didn't even consult the Assembly. There is an assembly in the CDAO. They were not consulted. They are heads of state who decide to go to war because they were told to go to war. Anyway, a council of ministers will take place, the assembly will take place, and we will prepare.
En tout cas, c'est passé en Conseil des ministres, ça va passer à l'Assemblée.